Is this an adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this with you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in and said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.
Hello everybody, hope you've all had a great weekend, and here we are on another Sunday Truth Proof live stream, and see what happens over the course of this next hour to 2 hours. Say like that, just give myself a little bit of a get out clause in case we don't do 2. All being well, in 8 o'clock till 9 we'll be talking to Annabella about her experiences, if she can make it. You know, she's got a busy life, and if she don't get here, you'll be left with me. So that's about where we are with that one. A few stories to share with you guys today. As usual, I want questions in capital letters, please, and we'll take it from there. I did see that, I think Zeno had just said about disclosure, but we'll have a look at that in a bit. Let's have a look. Let's just see who's in chat first, guys, shall we? Let's just go down here because it moves quick, doesn't it? I mean, we've nearly 200 people in here. So we've got Simon in, Christopher Withers, Outer Limits, Chris Evers, isn't it? Yeah. Zero Dawn, Margaret Webster, Andrew Wild, Ian Linney's in, Mrs. Linney probably, Mia Girl, good to see you. Pete will be in. Let's have a look. Liam Wilkinson, Tim Stoker, Jack Newcastle, searching. Gemma's doing moderating. Thanks a lot, Gemma. I think Lee will be in. I don't know about Alison. I know Alison's busy at the moment. Disabled Welshman. Let's have a look. Kevin Evers, good to see you, Kev. Not seen you for a while. Sue Eckersley. Let's have a look. There's loads more. I can't say 200. Oh, Mag, so I can't say 200 people, can I? But we might do a little bit more later. So what we've been up to, there's been a sort of quiet spell up on around the Eastern North Yorkshire area for us guys. We've had a few things happen, and next week, all being well, we'll try and get kind of a team live stream. So we'll get Ian in. Jack, all being well, maybe Mark, and whoever else goes up there wants to join us and share a few things that's been happening. And I'll touch on some of the things that's happened this week in a moment. And I think I'm gonna get on a diet. I think it's time to cut down on sweets. I get up on them cliff tops and we're eating sweets all the time. Jack's terribly brings bags and bags of sweets up, and I've got to cut down on them, Jack. You can't keep feeding us sweets, but he'll tell me about that tomorrow, no doubt. But where are we at now? We're not talking about sweets, are we? So, yeah, I've got a little bit of footage that somebody spoke about last week. They asked me, I saw it come up in chat, are you going to play that footage? It's a guy called Tony who sent me the footage, and it's CCTV footage. And my gut feeling is it's an insect, but I didn't put it out last week. I'm going to put it out now and see what you guys think. I've slowed it down. I've altered contrast and done a few things to it just to try and highlight it. So my gut feeling an insect, but we shall see. And I'm really appreciative of Tony sending this in. So let's just play this now. Let's get this little segment out of the way, and then you guys can see what you think. Just keep watching because obviously I've put it on a loop because I want you to get a look at it. Okay, guys, you've seen that. I don't know whether we'll get to any questions on it. My own thoughts on it are insects. We've got CCTV. I've got about 6 cameras, and you see, sometimes you see little, what people assume are orbs, and cobweb, or the thread of the cobweb. I'm not saying that's a cobweb. They're that thin that you can see these little lights moving about, and they're not orbs. It's just cobwebs close up to camera. Now, I don't know what that is. Could be an insect, so I don't know what you guys think. But he did ask me if I'd put it up. Let's just have a look. I see Dragonborn's in. Rocky Nuisance. Let's have a look. Joe Do. Yes, yeah, we've got quite a lot of people in here now. 255 people. So thanks for the support, guys. I want to read you something now. And this is not going to take us like 2 minutes, but I'm throwing this out because it's not really that much of an event, but I've just had some thoughts on it. So I was sent an email in week, and this guy's girlfriend or partner wanted to share this short experience, which I've printed off. And I want to know what you guys think. And you might think, well, this is nothing, this. But when I actually tell you a little quirky bit that I've noticed, it might make you think. So back in 2001, I had been a domestic at Nortal Southgate in Middlesex. We had 2 girls from Ghana who worked in the loading bay. One evening, they came running out of the loading bay saying they'd heard a ghost in there, and they weren't going back in. All that was left to do was sweeping the floor, so I went in to do it. Okay. I'd been in there alone a few minutes when I realised I'd been hearing whispering since I'd entered the area. It was a conversation, although I couldn't hear the rhythm. It was a conversation, but although I could hear the rhythm and exchange of it, I couldn't understand or make out any words, as if it was beyond my range of hearing. There was no sense that the speakers were trying to get my attention. No sense that they were threatening towards me or even aware of me. So I just carried on what I was doing. That's the end of it. And you're thinking, well, what's he read that for? It's interesting that the 2 ladies that were there before were from, did you say Ghana? And what if whatever it was that was interacting, just my thoughts here, was speaking in a different language that was aimed at those ladies, maybe their native tongue, I don't know. What do you guys think? Because there doesn't seem to be any limit to what these things of an unexplained nature can actually do. And we talk about the abduction scenario, and we know that they sort of touch all countries and all sort of places around the world. So people that don't obviously speak English, yet these people or these entities converse with the we'll call it the victim. Do you not think? I think so. Let's have a look at this. Mike, if I'm probably not going any further up than this, I don't know what you guys think to that. Ian Linney's put, hi Paul, hope you can put the strange footage up from your Sarah's. I'll save it till next week, Ian. I did think about that, and some really weird footage, guys, and I'd have to dig it out now, and I've not deliberately not done it. Next week we can talk about that when we do this group one. Some really, really strange footage, and before we do that, he's got that up there. Basically, eldest daughter, and she'll not mind me saying, she, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, she's in the kitchen of her home. Somebody came and put their hands on her hips. She thought it were her husband. I hope I didn't do this last week, because if I did, then I apologise. She turned around, there's nobody there. A week or so later, bang on side her head, same place in kitchen, turn around, there's nobody there. So that got it made her puzzled. It made her think. I mean, there's no hint of any paranormal activity ever taking place in her home, and it's not really her subject. She went into the bedroom a short time later, not that day, but yes, a week or so later. I've got the dates, and daylight, and she notices this, I don't know what it's like, a vapor. It's like a greasy, oily vapor that's between the window and the bed in a long line. Now, Linny's seen this, and lads on Clifftop have seen it. It really is quite special, and it's turning, and it looks really strange. If you picture a whale, a blue whale, as daft as that sounds, that shape, that's what it was like, only it's just there in air. She looks at it, thinks, what am I seeing? Am I actually seeing this? I think that's what her word. She said, I went out of the room, and we didn't feel frightened. Come back in, it's still there. No aerosols, no air sprays or anything. She gets a phone and films it, probably about 10 seconds. I mean, I'd have just wanted to film it all the way through. I know I would. Looks at it again. It's still there. Films it again. She's got 3 bits of film of this. And in the end, she walks up to it and you can see her hand move through it. It's really strange. I don't know if you guys can remember. I've probably not spoke about it for years. Well, I might have done, but it was when Gemma, who was doing moderating now, had come up on. I know it weren't when Gemma had done moderating, but Gemma had been here a short time before. I'm sat in that room. I'm sat in this little room watching TV, living room, main room to the left of me, and the hallway to the right. And this will connect to Sarah's story, guys. So just bear with me. And I fell asleep, and as I woke up with a start, I became aware that there'd been a presence near me or something. So I felt a bit uneasy. And I thought it was Mary, my wife. I thought she'd sort of thought, oh, he's gone to sleep. I'll come in and wake him up. But what she normally does, which I don't like, she'll put a mask on or something and stand staring at me, which makes me jump. And yeah, it's great fun. And anyway, it weren't. So I pretended I were all brave, and I just sat there thinking, because there's on it TV light on, darkness into all, darkness into these double doors. Short time later, I fell asleep again, woke up to a start. And when I looked at the hall door, and this is what it reminded me of what Sarah's filmed. This is where I'm getting at. And you'll have heard me say it. Anybody who's ever watched Guinness poured into a glass and you see it all swirling as it's going in, that sort of creamy brown, light brown liquid, that's what it looked like in the doorway. And that's similar to what Sarah's filmed. So as I say, I'm kind of teasing you here, guys, because it was just Ian that's put that up. And I did wonder whether to show you guys tonight, but we'll do that next week, because it is really interesting, and hopefully I might be able to put a camera up at Sarah's or something, but we shall see. She might even be in listening to this and saying, oh God, he's on about it. Let's have a look what this is. Can't think what it could be, Paul. I guess it could be nothing more than an insect. Yeah, my gut feeling is it's an insect. There were some parts when it's sort of, when I slowed it down, that it looks like a little person upside down, doesn't it? You know, but when people think they've filmed fairies, don't they, and got pictures of fairies and the mayflies, and you know, when you catch them in sunlight and that, you see the limbs of the mayfly draping down. People imagine they've caught pictures and images of fairies, and invariably they haven't. You know. Let's move on a little bit. Let's just see what we've got here. Giant mayfly, time of the year for them. Stephen Collin. Well, Stephen, there we go. I'd like to say great minds, but I don't know whether either of us have got a great mind there, mate. But yeah, we're on the money with that one, Stephen. Let's have a look. 40 and 23's in. Let's have a look. DS9268. Let's have a look. Lee Roscoe, what's he doing here? Question. On the YouTube short, Broxer Forest Part 2 coming up this Tuesday, 7 p.m. Chris said about Ground Zero. Talk about taking Michael Turnbull into Broxer. It would be good to take Michael into Broxer. If you're watching this, Michael, do you know what I mean? You really would be welcome to come in with us. And Michael's the guy who's had that weird experience in Danesdyke, and I've said many times when we had the light visitation, which I never talk about, do I, by the way? Every week I do, because it was that special. What were the ingredient? And I've noted that he's been there on a lot of these things that we've found that have been a little bit special. So to take Michael into Broxer might be an interesting experiment if he wanted to come in. But that would be up to Michael, of course. But yes, so that one's going out on Tuesday. I'll just put that picture up, guys. So Dark Secrets of Broxer Forest. So we're going to finish another 30 minutes or so of us walking around, and we're actually on what, like we've said, Ground Zero, where Jimmy and Steve had their experience, and then we cross the river, which was fun, and we find this cabin in the woods. And it don't matter if I tell you about it, because you're going to hear little different elements of it when we get there, and when you listen to it on Tuesday, guys, if you're going to listen 7 p.m. Because there was a guy camping already in the cabin, and of course we wanted to stay there and have something to eat and just have an hour there, but we couldn't. And this guy, first thing this guy said, well, you're not that YouTuber, are you? And unfortunately, I said, yeah. He says, "Oh, I don't want to go on camera." So it's fine. That's not a problem to us at all. So that was that. But I had to ask him the question, didn't I? Have you seen anything or heard anything in the times that you've been camping in here? And he explained to me and Chris, or told us, that he'd been coming into that woodland, that forest, from the age of about 16 or 17 to his current age of 49. And I don't mean every night, but on and off camping, few days a month even. It's still a lot of time spent in there. He said, and in that time, he'd never, ever seen or heard anything. Yes, listen to this, until Saturday night. What are the chances? Until Saturday night. And then he'd not seen anything. And then it might be explainable, but he did hear something. He said he was in the camp at early hours at morning, and he's stressed, and I would imagine he would have known. He knows all the animals that are in there, as in the deer, the fox, and when a fox actually manages to get a rabbit or a pheasant and hears all that commotion, he's heard everything that's in there. He said, but below his camp for about 10 minutes, there was a very big animal moving about. He says, I just doesn't know what it was. He says, and he could hear it grunting and grumbling and growling below his camp. I asked him, I said, what would you do? I said, my head would have been on swivel, to be honest. He said, I just laid there listening. He didn't seem that phased. I did tell him, I said, well, I'm going to relay what you've said. Obviously, we're not filming you or doing anything, but I was going to relay what he said. But what are the chances? I mean, but as I say, you'll be able to watch that one 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So thanks for putting that up, Lee. Let's have a look. What we got here? Confessions of a Ghost Boy. This is James. Good to see you, James, and thank you. And James Coppett, who come on a few weeks ago, and you need to get on to Confessions of a Ghost Boy's podcast and what he's about, because he puts as much effort into this kind of thing as anybody I know. So let's just move down here. Let's have a look, because I've got a few things to get through, and obviously we won't get through it if our guest comes on at 8. Paul, hope you're well. I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, because I know from the book it's a scary memory. Do you have any thought? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. I wish I'd have read this before I put it up. Mr. and Mrs. Tick, do you have any more memories? No, everybody asks me about the ticks, and it were a truly frightening experience, and not one that out of everything that's ever happened, that's something I won't want to experience again. Let's put it that road. I thought long and hard about whether that should have gone in the book, because and I think I've done this before, so I know I'm going over old ground, but some people will send me an email and I'll reply to them, and we'll get in conversation, and I might even talk about it on here, and then they contact me and say, it's almost like it's become aware again. It's almost like I've woke it up. And that's what I was worried about with this part of writing Night People. Because that old couple were frightening, because they knew things about me when I was younger, and they couldn't have done. I was living in Bridlington at the time. It was just so strange. So that's a question I don't want to see again. Let's have a look. Then I want to just show you a little bit, an image that were taken very close to the cliff tops, overlooking the north side of Danes Dyke. And I think it was taken Wednesday night or Thursday night. I think it might have been Thursday. It's irrelevant, but Wednesday or Thursday night. We'll just have a look at this one, and then we'll get to that image. Christopher with Hi, Paul. On the news, it was saying a large uptake in wild animals being kept as pets. So this could explain cat sightings. People are releasing them when they get too big to... Yeah, absolutely. Let's face it, I mean, everything looks lovely and cuddly, doesn't it, when it's little? But when it starts to get a little bit older, a little bit more boisterous, even like people, teenagers, good God, I know, because I've got one in chat that were a teenager, and they're an handful. So when pets get a little bit bigger and a little bit more boisterous, you don't want them, do you? And if you're not supposed to have them in first place, what are you going to do? And we're not recommending you release them, but that's what happens. So yeah, it is a bit frightening. And I received an email. I haven't got the full details in front of me. About 6 months ago, maybe longer, and it were a young girl that said that her dad, back in the 1990s, were good friends. She gave me all the details of the shop and everything, which I wouldn't say on air. Can't remember now anyway. But and her dad's friend owned a pet shop, and whilst visiting him one day, when he came home, he'd got little cuts and scratches all over his hands. And he said that the pet shop owner had got a big cat or a kitten that were going to grow into something like a panther. We're not supposed to say panthers, melanistic leopard. But there it was. He'd got this cat. And her dad told her all about it and showed her the cuts on his hands where she'd been playing with this cat. And then, let's say 6 months later, I don't know the time scale, but he gets a phone call. This guy's frantic. It's escaped. So there you go. You're on the money with it. And this cat had escaped. And then she said to me, there were reports of people seeing it and it were making the local papers. So, yeah, I don't think there's any mystical element to the cats, do you? I mean, but they're hyper elusive, aren't they? And let's think about it. And people say there's no food. Well, there's plenty of food. I mean, Linny will tell you that. He goes walking all over the place, and he'd tell you that there's loads and loads of food. There's lots of game. There's rabbits. There's hare. Do you know what I mean? So no shortage of food. So let's just move on a little bit. Liam Wilkinson, Stargaze Returnal. Let's have a look. Simon, Jojo. Thank you, Jojo. It's very kind of you. We're gonna. Paranormal Coffee Lounge. That's Terry. Now, I've done a short film of Terry's UFO sighting, which we'll be putting on in the next few weeks. It was while he were on cliff tops with us. Oh gosh, last year I think it was. It might have been the year before, Terry, and he was just telling us about this UFO or this object, this red object that he saw. I think it was just after he'd got married. He was staying at this venue after his wedding, and he saw this red object. And I had to put it together with two other UFO reports. One from Mel, and one from somebody on the cliff tops, and just to make it substantial enough for you guys to get your teeth into at least 15-16 minutes. So I'll be putting that out shortly. It's just a collection of UFO reports. So that'll be coming, Terry. And let me just know, Terry actually, when he was with us and he knew nothing about the flashes of light, just brought it all to our attention that he'd seen a flash of light like a camera flash on the cliff face. So that's something that these quirky little anomalies are the things that really interest me and other members at team, because we know that we're looking for the UFO, the UAP, these objects in the sky or ground based, but there's all this other stuff on the peripheral, all these sort of little add-ons that make it so interesting, and the flashes of light are fascinating. Jack's seen them. We've all seen them, and Terry didn't know what about it. He just commented that he'd seen a flash of light. And, at the outset, you think, well, flash of light, what's all that about? But it's interesting. It's a fascinating thing. Before we do hotels, let's just, I think it was Wednesday night, / Thursday morning, that some people had been to Cliff Tops. They'd been to visit us, spent a bit of time with us. And then when they went back to where they were staying, Gary took a picture from the upstairs window of the moon, and he got this. Now I don't know whether it's an artifact at window or whatever, but it's in an unusual place where they were staying as well, and he's looking onto the north side of Danes Dyke. That's all I'll say. But what do you think to that, guys? There's no other homes around there. Do you know what? I could almost think that is that the sides of the window and the flash. But then I don't. But then it needs somebody more skillful than me. You're not going to be able to do much with the photograph, but to break it down and decipher it. Those lights in the distance, they're miles away. Those lights in the distance. There's a little fleck of light, obviously to the left-hand side of this. What if we wanted to use pareidolia, we could almost say that's a being. There's somebody stood there. You can see a head, arms, and legs. I don't know about the other two. I can't quite work it out, because if we'd just got the one on the left-hand side and not the ones on the right, I'd be more inclined to think we'd got some proper anomaly. I can't help but think that the ones on the right could be the reflections from the folds in curtains. I'm not trying to shatter people's dreams, as in everything's got to be paranormal, but we've got to remain real, haven't we? We've got to keep us feet on the ground. And I don't know. I really don't know. I say that and I'm correcting myself already, because you can see the wall and they're not extending below the wall. And the one on the right-hand side, I'll get a daylight picture for you guys. And I have got a daylight picture. I'll not get it tonight. But there's a hedge there. So where that wall ends and then continues to the left, that's a hawthorn hedge. So in effect, it could all be behind the hedge. So that's thrown me a little bit. I'd not thought about that up until that moment, to be honest, guys. So I don't know what you think to that. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. And that's all we'll say on that. So there might be some questions for it. I don't know. Right, let's have a look. Paul, I had an unknown hand pull me backwards while walking down street in Hull. Was next to a 4-foot high fence and privet edge beyond that had no one there in the daylight. It's Chris Evers. It's so strange, Chris, isn't it? It really is. And you know, an unknown hand. So something or someone's pulled you backwards. It is fascinating, isn't it? We up on the cliff tops and around these areas, everybody on the team, and more so Pete than others, have all been pushed. And I don't mean pushed towards cliffs, just pushed him back. Had a little nudge inside at ribs, pushed it back at legs. So everybody's been pushed. I went into Danes Dyke probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and you guys may have heard me talk about this. And I've got a camera and I'm taking pictures. I'm going down. I lifted the camera up to take a picture, and it felt like something pulled my shoulder and pulled me backwards. It was a real weird sensation. I tried for ages to think of something that could be similar. I thought of the dampers that go up on a car. You know, is that what they call them? When the car bonnet goes up, or the boot. But in the end, I settled on it. Felt like the feeling you get when two magnets are opposing each other. That resistance. Well, that's what it felt like, being pulled backwards. And I carried on walking down the path. 5 or 6 minutes later, it happened again. So being pulled backwards, I mean, I don't know whether there were any sensation of anything else other than being pulled backwards there, Chris. I don't know, but it's a strange one, isn't it? If you're sure it happened, and I've no reason to disbelieve you, then it makes you worry and wonder what is around us all of the time that we're not aware of. It's fascinating, and thanks for sharing that. Let's have a look down here. I've got something else to share in a bit about those cliff tops and what the lads won't know about from Friday night, which I only got told about yesterday. But we'll do that in a minute. Let's just keep going down. Let's have a look. Matthew Cook. The Pentagon has released footage of orbs, but it doesn't beat some of your footage, Paul. What are your thoughts? I'm Matthew. I've not looked at the footage. I think I spoke to Chris Turner this morning, and I'm sure I was talking to Chris. Somebody I spoke to Chris, but I speak to a lot of people. And I think it was him that we were on about. They've not really released anything, nothing of any significance. And I was looking at some footage that I think it was Jeremy Corbell were talking about of this thing that almost looks like a star. They had named it. I can't think what they'd named it, and it's leaving a little trail. And I think it's been sort of ironed out now. It's some kind of parachute flare, but that was talked about as though it was some incredible UFO footage. And I agree. I 100% agree that some of the things that we've managed to film on and around the cliff tops and below the sea are quite amazing. I mean, I did that interview with Professor Simon Holland. I've still not got it fixed a date with him, actually, and it's down to me to get him on here. And I sent him a load of footage, loads and loads of footage, as Ian knows. And we had a little interview, and I got Ian in, and he's just used what he wanted to use, which is fine. It's his channel, and he's used that little clip of Ian's. And there's lots more, so we'll probably be doing some more with him in the future. Because I found him okay, to be honest. And let's have a look. So yeah, it's not brilliant, is it? This footage, and there's other footage out there. I exchanged a few messages with Chris Bledsoe, who's wrote the book The UFO of God, and I exchanged some messages with him today, funnily enough, with a view to getting him on the channel. and what I've been looking at the footages of orbs that this guy's putting out, or the people who work with him are putting out. I don't know that it's his son, and no disrespect, but it's not as good as this. And it sounds like a boast here, doesn't it? But it's not as good as the stuff we're putting out. And that's probably part of the problem is we're not putting it out. Do you know what I mean? We're not getting that exposure because, and it's down to me, isn't it? But there's only one of me, and I can't be everywhere. But there's some great footage. Let's have a look. Let's just go down. Right, they look like figures to me. Yeah, they do to me, especially the one on the left. And I've just. Like I said before, guys, could that be he's taking it from inside the room. So could that be the roll of the curtain, the fold of the curtain on the right-hand side? And I've not checked if they were even curtains, if I'm being truthful, but I could do because I know whose property it is. But then the bit I find fascinating is what I've just realised is it doesn't extend in front of the wall, does it? Do you know what I'm saying? It's very convenient if everything's just at the top of the wall, and the one on the left, that's behind a hedge. So yeah, it's an interesting photograph without a doubt. Let's just go a little bit further. As I say, we may be talking to Annabella. It depends on her time and if she's managed to get everything sorted. If not, we'll just plow through. I've got quite a few things to share with you guys. Let's have a look. We've stayed in that cottage and thought you might have. I recognise the view. I think it's a weird reflection. Don't remember the things on the right. Okay. You think it's a weird reflection. You've stayed in that cottage. Right. I know I'm talking to, I'm pretty sure. A weird. So if it's all I'm saying is, and I might not get to see your reply, if it's a weird reflection, have you taken a photograph yourself? And formed that opinion based on your photograph, but it don't matter regardless. If we've got it solved, we've got it solved. So thank you. Let's keep going. Let's just go down here. Let's have a look. Why do I feel like we're being moved into a lane? Tactical history teaches us when something says look to the right, and we need to know. Why? Where is China and the UN and the international human effort? It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's like, watch what we're doing with this hand, but the real magic's in this hand. It's hard, isn't it? We're not going to go into politics, are we? But I think we all know where we stand on all of this, and not just with the subject of UFOs as well. It's fascinating. I tell you what, as well, guys. Earlier in the week, I found a book, a little notebook. I'm no intention of reading it out tonight or anything. There's just a few entries in it from 2004 to 2008. I wish I'd have had it when I was writing Night People, or I wish I'd have found it. We're just going through stuff and throwing bits of things away. And in this notebook, I've noted that things have happened, just like the Book of the Strange, the book that got stolen, when I foolishly lent it to somebody or took somebody a gift, and that item was with it, and then they said they never had it, and then years later they admitted to it. That was a thick book full of the strange occurrences. This is just a little notebook, a little flip book, but there's things in it and noted when I've in what I thought were visions. And I don't think I'm a prophet, by the way, but they were really strong, and when I was going to bed, they were so strong that I were able to talk to my wife while I was seeing these things. And it's funny that you noted China, because in one of them, I talk about secret China and Russia in secret talks about America and things like that. It were weird, but maybe do a short on all those little note entries at some point. Anyway, I'm rambling again, guys, aren't I? Let's have a look. The right two figures in the photo repeat themselves. They look like there's a reflection. Yeah, I reckon so, mate. Yeah, I think we've probably cured the picture, but it were interesting while it lasted, weren't it? And it were good of Gary to share it with us. Okay, right. Before we do all else, let's just concentrate on this. I think it was Friday night while we were up on the cliff tops. 6 or 7 of us. there were Wednesday night, there were a few strange sounds, which we couldn't identify. And I don't mean sounds in the distance, I mean sounds around us. And we've talked about that before. And then Friday, I think it was, let me just have a look. I did make a note of this. Chris, Ian and Steve saw 3 bright flashes of light. We've just been talking about these flashes of light. I'll do this in chronological order. So I'm going to jump back. After we'd been up onto the cliff tops Monday, start again, Paul. I didn't realise I got this bit of paper. Bedtime I went to bed, I don't know, about 10 to 12. Just laid there about 5 to 12, not been in bed long, and everybody knows their own property. Now, there may be nothing unusual here, but I heard the thud of, there's a big wall around back garden, and there's some paving slabs down one side. I heard the thud of what it sounded like somebody jumping off the wall and landing on the paving slabs. And I know there's the few sensors which would just ding if there were anybody there. So I just laid there listening, and I made a note at time. I think it's about 5 to 12. Next day, I said to my wife, Mary, I said, just have a look on CCTV. See whether, and dog never barked either. You know how fierce Bobby is. You know what he's like. I mean, nobody would get away, quite honestly. So I said, just have a look on CCTV, see in between 11:45 and 12, see whether there were anything in that passage, because I heard the thud and it were a lot louder than a cat jumping off wall onto pavers. Now, it weren't at 11:45, but unusual, and it doesn't happen. The CCTV stopped recording at 9 o'clock and started again at 1 a.m. just in that section. Everything else before it, everything else after it were fine. So what that means, I don't know. So just a little quirky thing there, probably just a glitch in the CCTV. So where are we going? Yeah. So we've got the strange sounds on Wednesday, which a few of us heard, including Chris Mack. Me and Chris heard them overhead as we were walking along cliff tops and close to us heads. So we get to Friday, few flashes of light up on the cliff tops, and then we decide we're going to come home. We went up a bit later because the light nights, we prefer it when there's nobody about, and it's a little bit more favourable for the phenomena. I think it just builds the atmosphere. And we were going to stay quite late, but the alarms went off in the car park. Don't know whose, but the vehicle alarms going off. So rather than just ignore it, we said, right, let's go. So we packed us things up, set off home. And there's no damage to any vehicles. There's no alarms going off when we get there. And so he wrapped us things up, said us goodbyes, went home. Then I received a message yesterday from a guy, and Mark. And he told me that he was up on the cliff tops on Friday with his girlfriend. And he's allowed me to record. I recorded about 30 minutes of conversation, which he knows, but I've chopped about 2 to 3 minutes for you guys to listen to. So they heard alarms going off, and the alarm that we heard could have been his. So I'm going to play you the recording. I hope all this is, stay with us, stay with it, because we talk about voices on cliff tops, and I've got a recording of what he recorded, although it's not going to make any sense to me. It doesn't anyway, so it's not going to you. So we're going to play this guy's recording, and then we're going to, let's have a look. I've got to get this one right. I don't want to get wrong one. So I'm going to play the recording. Let's just get rid of this picture first, guys. Remove. And then we'll play the actual audio that he recorded. So listen to this. There's 2 or 3 minutes and see what you think. I'll stop it if you want me to. Well, I'll not. You went up there last night. We're in May, aren't we? So just tell us what happened.
Yeah, we went up there about 9 o'clock for a walk along the cliff top. Been up there 40, 50 times before, but never had the feeling like it was last night. Very, very heavy. And as we come onto the cliff top, we heard something, like, we heard a voice, but we couldn't make out what it was. So I put my phone on record and was walking, and about 5 minutes, a couple of minutes later, we heard it again. I got it on record. Definitely a voice, a woman's voice, but it sounded evil.
Did she sound close to you?
Yeah, it sounded all right. It didn't sound. It wasn't like in your ear. It was everywhere.
Right.
But it was so. And I've heard people speak before about this, where you get this little bubble and all that. It was kind of like that. The wind, the only thing, there was still a bit of wind, but everything else, all the noises, the birds, everything just stopped.
Yeah.
And then we started to walk along the cliff top, and between the two buildings on the top of the old RAF base, you could see. Well, you can see there was two people, well, what I thought was two people, walking across, but then they kept going back again. I wasn't sure I was imagining it, so I walked a bit further down, and you could clearly see these two shadows walking across that thing, but there was at this point you can see there was way too big to be people, and there was moving way too fast. It was like gliding across the top.
Right.
And then as we stood there for 5 minutes watching it and trying to catch them on camera, and I did get a few images, but it was so hard because it was so hard to get them.
It's failing light as well, isn't it, mate? It's hard with a phone.
It was, yeah. I mean, I got the camera equipment or anything like that, but it was clear there. And then one of them come right towards us. He maybe stopped about 40 foot away from us, and then he went straight back again. Within like seconds, he went straight back onto that ridge, onto that top ridge.
Yeah, yeah.
As soon as she saw that, my girlfriend knows, she was like, right now, I want to go now, I don't like it, I want to go.
Is that first time that you've ever felt as uneasy as that up there?
I never felt anything bad.
Your phone went dead, didn't it?
On the way back, I went dead about 50-60% on my phone, because I thought, I had my camera with me on my phone, my light on my phone. By the time we got across that wasteland, I was on 2%, and then went to go get in the car, and my car fob, that was totally dead. I had to take the car key to pieces to open the car. I mean, it was a new battery about 3 weeks ago, so there's no reason. So there was already an alarm going off on the van before. When we first got there was an alarm going off on the van.
What do you think to that, guys? I know I sort of caught Mark on the hoof, and he allowed me to record him, which were good of him, but it paints a picture. So when they're walking down, they hear a voice. They can't tell what the voice is saying. They get to the bottom where you turn right or left. Obviously, they take a left, and they hear the voice again. But he presses record. When he heard the voice, he puts his recorder on his phone, and he manages to capture something, which is interesting. And then sees two figures that weren't figures. Then goes to his vehicle. This phone's gone flat from being 50% or over 50% to next to nothing. The key fob doesn't work on the van. He takes it to bits to get his car started or to get into his car. When they first arrived, there were a van's alarm going off. That makes sense because Mark thought that was his van alarm that were going off. So that's probably the one. The other alarm that went off, which was the one that probably brought us off the cliff tops. I don't know. But fascinating, guys, don't you think? So this is what he caught on audio. Now, I've raised the volume, so you're going to get a lot of static, a lot of noise, but you can hear a voice. So the first part of it is just what he's recorded, and you can only just hear it. Then I've raised the volume, and you can hear a voice, but I don't know what it's saying. Then I sent it to my son-in-law, who's got a little recording studio. He's took all the noise away, and you can hear the voice, whatever it's saying. Now, Nick, my son-in-law, thinks it's German, but I'll let you guys have a look. Let's just see, where are we now? I need to get it right. Okay, have a listen, guys. Listen carefully. So that's the original. I put it on a loop then. This is the cleaned up audio. Make that make sense, as they say. What do you think to that? I mean, he definitely he's writing what he said. He's recorded something. He's recorded a voice, but I can't decipher what it's saying. Can you guys? It's a difficult one, but it just adds to the strangeness, doesn't it? You know, it's so odd. But we might get to some of some questions about that. Let's have a look now. If I'd got somebody to fire back at me, we could debate it. Unfortunately, I've just got to wait to see whether there's a question about it. Then it might be in 10 minutes' time. But no worries. My grandmother was pulled back and a car came whizzing by. She looked back, thanked the person. Nobody was there. Almost like a guardian angel, isn't it? And isn't there a few quirky videos and things of people actually have been in a tragic accident in a river, and I think that the people have been pulled out of the car and nobody knows who pulled those people out. I don't know. It's fascinating that we're just not aware of the things, some of the things that are around us. And why would they pull you? Why would they touch Chris? Why would they pull you back? Why did I get pulled back? Well, there's got to be a reason. Why are we getting? Is it to get our attention? You know, why are we getting little nudges and taps up on and around these cliff tops? Because we are. You know, it's definitely happening. So let's just go on a little bit, guys. Liam Wilkinson, Amelia, good to see you, Amelia. Kim King. Let's have a look, because Chris has got something else to say. Jan and the two stepkids witnessed my reaction at being pulled back. They will tell you more when I see you. Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating, Chris. It really is. And don't you think, guys, Chris and everybody, don't you think that these little quirky bits of the unexplained are just as important as seeing the UFO, we know it's to be a spectacular thing to see and it be etched in your mind forever. But these bits, all these little ancillary add-ons, they just make it all the more interesting, I think, these little flashes of light that we're seeing. And it's brilliant that other people are experiencing similar things. You know, I mean, this guy, Friday night, The Voice, seeing the two figures. There were about 20 minutes of conversation, which obviously I weren't just going to sit there and let you guys listen to. Not because it would have just been, you know, you wouldn't have enjoyed listening to all little ums and ahs and debating. But what I'm saying is he said that these figures, when it came towards him, it looked over 7 foot tall. And then it went back and it were like it were gliding. It's fascinating, isn't it? Can all of these people be wrong? Can, you know, seriously, can all of the people that are reporting it, you know, somebody, I noted in some comments, somebody was saying something about me and they're saying like his stories are getting outrageous. They're not mine. They're not my stories. For the most part, I'm relaying other people's accounts. And there's so many parallels in all of those accounts. So, you know, we have to add some semblance of truth to what these people are telling us. Just because it conflicts with what you believe is possible, then it doesn't really mean, does it? You know, in grand scheme of things, if people are seeing these things and they're bold enough to report them, then why not? Do you know what I mean? Let me just get rid of a few bits of footage here, guys. Remove that one. Yeah, I think I've covered all of those. There's an image if Annabella comes on that she's taken that I'll show, but I'm not going to do that unless she comes on. Let's have a look. Truth Proof has hit 2,900. That's brilliant, guys, and thanks for the support. So I think I say it every week now, but if you haven't subscribed and you're on your phone now or your laptop or your computer, subscribe. It's free, and you're just supporting us a little bit. And on that note, I'll just mention anybody wanting to buy the books, you can get them on truthproof.uk or the Kindle versions on Amazon. You get the DVD that myself and Les made, Wolflands, at truthproof.uk, or you can get that as a Amazon Prime film. So, you know, just have a look. And as I say every week, if anybody orders a book, if you ordered one today, it'll be in post tomorrow, providing I get the email, and I usually do. So that's that bit out of the way. Let's have a look. I will be staying in that cottage in November. I hope we get to meet up. That'd be good. With Dizzy Dawn, we'll do some photography towards the dike and see if we can get similar images. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, that would be good. And I know it's ironic. It's a small world because the people who took that picture, I don't know, literally a few days before, there were some other people in who we knew. And they've had some interesting anomalies with cameras looking onto the dike. And then there's no bounds of privacy being broken here, people. They're looking onto woodland. They're looking onto just woodland and open skies. And they'd seen some interesting things. So, it is fascinating and lovely place, lovely location to stay. So I hope you, I hope you managed to catch some strange anomalies. Let's put it that way. Let's have a look. Let's just go down here, guys. And I hope our guest shows up, because otherwise you just got me. Let's have a look. Nigel Sheffield. Paul, if there was, thank you, Nigel, piece of equipment you would love to have on the cliffs to make gathering evidence easier, what would it be? It's not going to happen, is it? But what it would be a nice porter cabin, some fixed cameras, 360 cameras, night vision, where a team of people could go. And we're not that kind of people, we are outdoors people. But it would be good to be able to go inside, get a warm, have a coffee or a tea, sit and watch the cameras, let the cameras do the work for you. And I don't think there'd be any shortage of people to man such a place. Incidentally, the guy at the cottage has told me I can put a camera up there, which I will be doing. So that's good. I think I told lads in week. So somewhere as a base, so that, we're not dodging rain and snow and ice, and, because it's that unpredictable in these locations. We came off there, you'll find it in one of these YouTube films on Truth Proof. You'll have to go back quite a while. Probably Linny might remember, but I reckon to 2023. And a storm literally just descended on us. And I personally have never been in wind and rain as severe in all my life. Never. And I reckon guys will echo saying when we got up towards trees, it sounded like a jet engine. It was just unbelievable. So you can understand how these freak storms occur out at sea, and boats become in severe difficulties. So but anyway, I'm rambling again. I'm going off on one piece of equipment. Just more equipment, better night vision gear. We've got good night vision gear, with the Psionics cameras and the thermal cameras and the inexpensive low light cameras. At least they're doing a job for us when we get them fixed. Even though we've not had great results with them, at least they're doing jobs for us. But it would be brilliant. I don't mean to have an unlimited budget, but it would be brilliant to be able to invest in more equipment. In people in past, even on live streams, have said, "Oh, why don't you put some trail cameras up?" You can't. In the daytime, this is a busy area in the daytime. This is a seabird colony, and we have to respect that as well. You can't go fixing cameras up and or going over the sides of these cliffs to do things. A, you're going to disturb wildlife, and B, it's dangerous. But you just couldn't. You couldn't leave trail cameras worth £200. We know you can buy them for 30 or 40 quid, but you just can't leave items like that anywhere, because they'd be seen, they'd be found. You've got to have really discreet places. And I know Mark put had a location for a trail cam. I'll not say where, but recently, very close to us. And he got some amazing images of wildlife. No big cats or anything or strange anomalies, but wildlife images. So lots of equipment, basically. Yeah, I don't think you can ever have enough, can you? Let's have a look. Sounds like Aussie. Let's have a look. That's not really a question, was it? So, Rocky nuisance. If the voice is some sort of past echo, it could be hard to decipher, because Old English is like a different language to what we. Yeah, you make a really good point. And I was sent some audio from around the top of the cliffs a few years ago. And it's from a group of young men that were up there in the, I think, 20s and 30s. And they all stopped and said, I can hear voices. I've just heard something. And they sent me the audio. And when I put it into Resolve and raised the audio levels and tried to get rid of a bit of noise, the voice, I think the voice says, not foolish, but fool is man, which is an odd way of saying things, isn't it? Fool is man. And it's saying it sort of really raspy. Fool is man. It could be saying foolish man, but I think there's a fool is man. But so, yeah, that's hard to decipher that. But he's definitely caught a voice. I mean, but some of the voices we've heard, there's no mistaking. There's almost a trickster element to the voices as well, I know we've spoke about it, and we might touch on this next week if we do kind of a group stream where everybody who goes up there wants to kick some ideas about. But Jack had met up with Chris on Clifftops and asked him how we were doing early in the evening. How are you, Jack? How are you doing? And then later in the evening, probably 2 hours later, we all heard, not we all, me, Ian, and someone else, heard Jack ask the same question. And I looked at Jack and said, what are you talking about, Jack? And he'd not asked it. There were a voice it were almost mimicking what he'd said. How are you doing then, Chris? I don't know what the exact words were. How are you keeping, Chris? It could have been. I don't know. But it's almost a mimic of what he'd said. And I looked at Jack. I thought, what's he on about? He's asked him this earlier in the evening. Sounded like him as well. It's just crazy. And we asked him what he'd said. He said, never said anything. So your guess is as good as mine, guys. Let's have a look. We'll do it. I don't want to do too long a story. I've got one here anyway. We'll just... is this a Lee Roscoe question? I know a little German, Paul. Well, you know a little German, like a little person? I don't know. Voice like that sounds like Defus, which means bye, cheers, see you. Okay, Lee, thank you. Right. There you go, Lee, our German interpreter. Thank you very much, Lee. It's fascinating, isn't it? You know, but why German? I mean, it were only Nick, son-in-law, he said it sounds like German to me. And, you know, you'd probably be right. I'll bring a stotty cake and a bottle of brown ale down next time with them down, Paul. See if we can coax more vocal interaction out of my Geordie voice. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. A stotty cake. Absolutely. And I swear, the flash of light that when I was filming, which we'll be putting, I have so many bits of film I've got to sort of get together and put out on short films for YouTube, but that's fascinating. And then Fortian's done some work on it for us. And obviously the lights behind us, you can see a head and a shoulder, which can't be mine because I can't cast my own shadow as I'm looking at the flash. And there's a ball of light in the flash, and all I see is a flicker of light on and off. But that I'll not bother trying to explain that. We'll get the footage up at some point, and we'll see where we go. Reverend Wolf VIP, Martin James. Let's have a look. Where are we going here? Online Property Explorer. Just example. If you shine a torch on the wall in the 3rd dimension, it makes a 2nd circle of light. If you shine it in the 4th dimension, it makes a 3rd ball of light. Same with shadows, so I'm told. Thank you. Excellent. What do you think to that, guys? We're being educated, and thanks for the, well, not explanation. That's what you're telling us there. Thanks. Let's have a look. We're going to do a little story in a minute. We're going to do this, and then we'll get to something else. Right, I've got one here from a guy who contacted me, well, a while back, and this is a story from April 2025. So I'll just get that with the old paper clip. Something unusual I saw on the moors this year. So you can see how long it's took me to get to this, April 2025. The encounter occurred April the 18th between 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning between Stanhope and Blanchard on Meadows Edge facing north. Some people will know these locations. I don't. It's not around where we live. All right. I sat in my car in complete darkness, so there's no street lights, and it's right in the middle of nowhere on the moors of the North Pennines. Suddenly, in the near distance, I saw this strange bright white light, like a dot in the distance. But it kept changing like an orange colour, which after a while seemed to split into 2 lights. They were dancing about all over the place, shooting up and down and going diagonal, but in a fashion that no plane or drone could do. Like I said, the light split into 2 lights, and the second one was mimicking the first one side by side. To the right was a greyish object, maybe the size of a house or a shed. It was hard to tell the size, as it was in the distance. I know those moors well enough I know those moors well enough where I was sat. No buildings are in view in daylight, let alone in the dark. So he knows his surroundings, doesn't he, when he's relaying this information to us. Whatever the lights were doing, they were reflecting off this grey object, making it appear lighter and darker. I was fascinated in what I was looking at and scared at the same time. And then suddenly it turned into 3 lights in a triangular formation. It looked like they all got really big, or from my point of view, it looked like they shot towards me. This really scared me at this point. As I was watching them, something caught my eye on my right. It was a bright white ball going across the moors where there are no roads. So obviously he's trying to decipher, is that headlights or something, motorbike, no roads. It seemed a lot closer than the others. As soon as I looked at it, it seemed to go over the moors and behind my car. That's when I started my car and headed home. On the way back, I passed Weskerley Reservoir on the right. And as I was coming to Histhorpe Reservoir on my left, I stopped the car as I could see the 2 lights, only this time they were closer and the grey object was now on my left. I was so confused I headed home after that. Why didn't I try to take pictures? Why didn't I try to get more information? I know I don't have a phone tripod, but I could have tried. I'm a keen photographer, but I didn't have my camera with me at that time. Now, this is the weird thing. If all what I've told you wasn't weird enough, I went back at night and saw the light. In a different location to the west, but it was about 1 mile further up the roads towards Blanchard's, and it was facing west this time. A car went directly under it, and I've been back in the day to look at the landscape, and there is nothing above the road. It is moorland, so it wasn't anything else. I was really puzzled. I thought I would share that encounter with you. Strange, isn't it? So many people coming out and sharing their encounters of the strange and unusual. Don't you find it fascinating, guys? I do. Let's have a look. Let's have a look here. What's this? Did you say recently that Dennerby is a place of regular high strangeness? I don't think I did, Tim. I were brought up in Old Dennerby, which is the village outside of the town of Dennerby. Is it a town, Dennerby even? I think it is. So I was brought up in that little village, and most of the things in Night People occurred when I was living in that little village in a council house in that village. But I don't know whether that makes it a place of regular high strangeness. No, it's not a word I'd use, Tim. But I know things have happened there over the years. But don't you think, guys? I mean, we're myself and team of people that go up onto these cliff tops and these other locations when I get into these woodlands and forests with Chris Wright. Don't you think that we're reporting on these things and we're gathering information from other people, and we're kind of highlighting the areas? So it makes me wonder, if I'm not moving, but if I moved, I don't think the phenomena would follow me. That's what I'm saying. So, or the bulk of it. So is it there for everybody? Are we just passing over it, or just passing it by and not really paying any attention? Would anybody notice if you were walking at night and you saw a little flick of white light? Is anybody filming and then putting it onto some kind of editing program and breaking it down frame by frame and realizing you're actually bathed in a brilliant white light? There's not many people doing that. If you heard voices as you're walking about at night, would you stop and analyze it and think, what's that? I'm thinking that a lot of this phenomena is around everybody all of the time. Just like Chris tonight, Chris Evers, Outer Limits, is telling me he's walking in town and something pulled him backwards. It's crazy, isn't it? But I don't know. All right, let's just have a look here. Freya Beyond 2012. I heard 2 voices here in Ireland a few years back. Thought they were lost. Sounded foreign, but couldn't place them. Walked down to the bridge and they walked straight past me. Nothing there visually. That's fascinating, isn't it? That little story kind of makes what we're doing worthwhile. I mean, we've got a witness here who, I've not met you, but you're relaying this experience, and something or someone walked past you and you can hear them. And what is it? Some parallel world? Is it a little glitch in the timeline? What do you think it is, guys? I wish I knew, but I know it's absolutely fascinating. Let's just go down a little bit more. I've got an incredible... If Annabella doesn't turn up, which is fine if she doesn't, I realise people have busy lives. I've got an incredible werewolf account story to tell you guys that I've probably told once before. And it's really interesting. I think it is anyway. So we're going to do that. So, now, I don't know whether you've watched this is the guy who sent the CCTV footage. I've removed it now, Tony. Otherwise, we'd have played it again for you. Did you manage to enlarge the CCTV footage that I sent you last week? Regards, Tony. We've already played it, Tony. And I did enlarge it. I slowed it down. I put it through a few filters. And if you weren't in earlier, Tony, my gut feeling is it could be an insect. And I'll give you this. It's unusual. But, I can't say categorically what it is, and you'll see through comments that what other people think. You're probably going to have to go back to beginning at stream if you've not seen it, and then you'll see what people thought. And I really appreciate you sending it me. And, yeah, have a look. So I did take up on what you told me last week, and we did play it as soon as it was first thing I showed tonight. Let's keep going up here, guys. Let's give us a sec. Probably running out of questions here. I don't know. We've got a lot of things that aren't in caps, and we're going to do this now then. So this is quite a long story, this one, guys. So we'll and I will stop if our guest does come, but if she doesn't, we'll carry on. So this revolves around Prestwick, and I've called it the Baboon Werewolf, and it's from 1999. So some of you might have heard it. I think I've probably spoken about it once. Be surprised if I mentioned it a few more than that, really. So I received this email, October 2020, from a lady called Lucy. The email asked if I'd ever heard of the Prestwick baboon. It then went on to explain that in 1999, or she then went on to explain in 1999, she was 18 years old, and she worked as a trainee administrator at British Aerospace at Monkton, Prestwick, Scotland. Okay. Back in 1999, it was a military compound, and they had HMS Gannet in the same compound, separated by fencing and armed guards. Okay, guys. It was also where the Air Sea Rescue was based, as well as the RAF Navy and personnel too. For me, this is what makes her encounter strange. This is obviously me saying this. How can something that's not meant to exist actually get into a high security, military restricted area right next to Prestwick Airport? It's fascinating, that, isn't it? Because we've not even got into the story yet, but this lady's talking about the security and where she worked, yet something was seen there that just... These things that are seen in forests and remote places shouldn't exist. But you could imagine something appearing in those locations, but some kind of high security compound, military personnel, makes you think, doesn't it? Right. Restricted area right next to Prestwick Airport. Lucy's encounter happened around 7:15 a.m. on a cold, dark January morning as she walked from the back security gate to the office where she worked. It usually took her 8 to 10 minutes. As soon as she started walking, she knew she was being watched. So that's fascinating, isn't it? And this thread of the strange runs through all aspects of the unexplained, don't you think, guys? Not just cryptid encounters, this feeling of being watched. So is that the actual influence of whatever it is that's there, or is it something allowing this thing to be here, creating this sensation within us? It's difficult. I know we don't know that, but she had this feeling of being watched. And I've put there, how many times have we heard this? At some point in her journey, she heard a very loud crashing noise over to her right. It came from the side of the trainee apprentice block. It startled her and she stopped in her tracks. Then a few seconds later, she noticed a strange shape appear at the doors to the old wooden shed, which was joined to the apprentice block. This is 1999. I mean, she had a lot of years to think about this and didn't send me the information, till 2020. Her initial thoughts were that someone had fallen and got injured because it looked like they were crawling out of the shed. So we're getting there, aren't we? We've got a scene from an horror film here, guys, aren't we? So she took a few steps closer and the shape made a weird noise. Not a human noise, but a growl. That's when she realized it wasn't a person. She said it looked like a huge dog, like a Newfoundland dog. This is at a distance, guys. Remember that. Lucy explained that her friend had one, but this one was massive compared to her friend's dog. It took a few steps forwards, then it stopped. She remembered looking around to see if anyone else was there, but there was no one about. When she looked back, literally a few seconds later, it was standing upright on two legs, but a lot closer than before. It was maybe 5 meters away from her, and this thing was absolutely huge. Can you imagine that? Young girl, 18 years old, seeing something like that? Right, she described it as standing slightly hunched, but it must have been at least 7 foot tall, even in that stance. Lucy told me that she was only 5'3". In fact, she still is, and it was a total giant compared to her. It had really pointy ears on the top of its head. It had dark fur and a massive frame and huge shoulders. Do you know, this doesn't sound unlike what Jimmy and Steve saw in Broxer Forest, and I don't mean it was the same thing, but the way they're describing it with these huge shoulders, and Steve said that you could have fitted 2 men inside it. It was that big, and he described its ears as being very tall and pointy, and ridiculously tall. So its eyes didn't glow yellow, but its face was like something out of the American Werewolf in London. Can't imagine that, can you? Well, you can. Watch the film. She told me it had long arms hanging down by its sides, arms like human arms. At the end of the arms were hands with claws. The body was massive, but it looked like it had a bit of a waist, which was weird. She described its legs as muscular at the top, but very long. She cannot remember its feet. Right. I've just put it sounds like something that's just stepped out of a horror film. And I'm making comparisons with the Fangman of Forden at Staxton Wold. And I've spoke about this one, but not in great detail. And that's the former security guy that worked around farms and properties around that area, Staxton and Forden, and claimed to have seen this thing at the side of his car. Then as he drove off out of its way up towards Staxton, and stopped his car, it was there again. I don't mean it just appeared like magic, but it came again. And he called it the Fangman because he'd seen canine teeth. He'd seen what he described as fangs, which is interesting. Let's just play with this for a minute before we go back to the story. Foxholes, which is very close to Staxton and Forden, a place called Foxhole Little Village. That's where the guy driving home in his Jaguar car back from Scarborough claims that this animal, a huge wolf, was pacing his car. But he said it was looking in at him. How could it do that when he's traveling at 45, 50 miles an hour? Well, that's what he said. But he said it had huge fangs as big as his thumbs. He used the term fangs. So anyway, rambling. Right. All of these things are seen close to military installations. Is there a link? Which is true. You know, what I've just described to you guys is close to Staxton Wold military base. You know, so what she's describing is actually not close to a military base. If she's telling the truth, it's on a military base. It's all part of it, aerospace and the military base that's separated by a fence. Right. The things seen under North Yorkshire Forest are close to RAF Fylingdales, which is a good point, isn't it? Excuse me. Does it raise the question? It does raise questions, however. However, accounts in folklore go further back than military installations, which is true, isn't it, guys? You know what? I'm just adding this little point that these things are seen around the military installations, but the accounts that we've gathered for the making of Wolflands and don't just come in present day. They go back into the annals of folklore when we talk about people seeing the Barghest, this huge phantom hound, or in some instances, depending on how you want to spell it, because there's loads of different interpretations of the Barghest, but basically it's on the same lines. It looks like a huge bear or a huge dog. It's fascinating how people interpret these things. But well, they're looking at the same thing. So right, let's jump on. She said that it started sniffing the air. She admits that thinking about this still gives her chills. It didn't move from the spot, and she couldn't have moved even if she'd wanted to. She was terrified. Now it was looking right at her, and it was beginning to growl. At this point, she remembers the hairs on her arms and neck were all standing on end. She felt like she could hear a pin drop. So we've got this other element of the unexplained. All these little ingredients within a person's story draw you to all these little add-ons, these little ancillaries that take place within an event of high strangeness, extremely high strangeness. So there's some kind of static in air. This is where we'd want Rick Allen. And he's probably in chat, but we might not get to your question, Rick, or if you put it in, I might not see it, but he'd be telling you about the static electricity and the reason why that we feel the static. Because on a lot of encounters, people report their air standing on end. And we've also got this descent in what I call the lower silence, this strange disjointed reality that we seem to be enveloped in when having an episode of high strangeness like what this is. So it's got all the ingredients, hasn't it? Right. I felt like I could hear a pin drop. The standoff broke when she heard the noise of the mail buggy that drives about. It came from the back of the trainee apprentice building, as that's where the internal mail centre was. The thing obviously heard it too and turned quickly to its side and made that growling noise again, except louder, like a snarl, like it was really peed off. It must have slightly opened its mouth because its huge incisors were hanging down. Okay. Then it did a 180-degree turn. One sec. My tea lady's just arrived. Thank you very much. And Bobster, is he staying with me? Oh, it's a bit tears. No, he's going. Right. Let's have a look. Right, disappeared. 180 degrees. Then it did a 180-degree turn, took an almighty leap and landed on all fours and disappeared behind the storage container. This was the last I saw of it. Something clearly put the military on high alert. Well, they obviously knew then, if that's what she's saying. During that day, there was the weird goings on with helicopters flying low and HMS Gannett Security going about aerospace with trucks. Lucy had already decided that she wasn't going back for the rest of the week, so she pretended that she was ill. Later in the week, her mum came into the house and was holding the local newspaper. She was shouting, "Hey, there's a baboon being spotted at Prestwick Airport." Upon hearing that, Lucy nearly fell off the chair. I what, she said. Just a few days ago, her mother replied. She couldn't believe it and thought to herself, that was no baboon. That don't they mean a werewolf? Up until things started appearing in local newspapers, Lucy genuinely thought she was losing the plot. But she knows what she saw that day, and it wasn't a baboon. Isn't that an amazing story, guys? Don't you think? He's a bit front paper. Spokeswoman for Strathclyde Police said yesterday, we received a call from a local man who said he'd narrowly avoided hitting a baboon-like creature on Shore Farm Road in Prestwick. So it made the newspapers as well. So don't you think that's fascinating? I do. These are the reasons we do what we do, guys. Just reports like that are just incredible, aren't they? And where are we going now? We got any more questions? Probably missed all them now. Let's just go up here a bit, guys. And looks like you're just with me for next half hour, but no worries. All good. 1 second. I just need to go up just in case I've missed anything. 40, have you? 40, just bear with me. I think we're just about there. Let's have a look. Have you ever spoken to anyone else in your street to see if they've experienced any phenomena similar to what you've experienced at home? Or has anyone not to report strange events locally? Great question, 40. Yeah, and I know that there'll probably be a bit of information for the Prestwick baboon stroke werewolf and some of the other stuff, but let's just concentrate on this. When I wrote Night People, the night, I think probably the night that they put the holes in my back, which we've got the photographs of, and anybody who's read Night People will see them photographs. And the guy over the road Peter, I think I've told people this before, he couldn't sleep laying down because he'd got lung problems from working in a foundry. So he used to sit in a really comfortable chair downstairs. That night, apparently, because he came across and told the girls as well, he was sat watching the world go by, and we were at the back of the house, he says, and in the top room of the house, he saw, I think it was balls of light, spears of light. He thought the girls had got some kind of lamp or something. This is early hours at morning. Then he was watching what he described as, he thought there were an electrical fault in the house. He said there were big flashes of light. At one point, he said, I thought your house were going to explode or go on fire. So the next morning, he came round to tell us. So that kind of answers what you're saying there. He came round to tell us about this. And I already knew, I'd already got an inkling what had happened in the night. Because it didn't come to me everything straight away. I sat on edge of bed and I couldn't remember anything until Mary said to me, Paul, I don't believe it, you've got 3 holes in your back. And then I remembered part of what had happened. And then it sort of bits drifted back to me throughout the day. There's probably loads more that I've never remembered. So that's one instance. Then the lady over the road, who maybe watches this, I don't know, but she's told us on more than one occasion that she's seen strange things at her room. Her bedroom looks over to our property. Flashes of light and strange things in the property. And on one occasion, when she were really ill and staying in bed all day, getting over an illness, looking across in the daytime, there's 2 landing windows on front. One's in one of the properties, which is now a flat, and one's on the staircase. So there's a fire door in between. She says, and I watched 2 people, but just dark shadows, as though they were walking downstairs, and you'd see them on one window and go past the other window lower. And then they'd repeat it. And they were doing it for hours and hours and hours. There's no stairs there. It's a landing. And there's 6 flights of stairs in this property. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you've got 5. Sorry, 5. But there's no stairs on that particular. So she just gave us that quirky little story, and I've asked her if she'll talk about it. Actually, probably a couple of years ago, she said she would, but I've not pushed her. So yeah, people have experienced strange things. One of the tenants who was in the room actually where I received the holes in my back. I shouldn't be saying this. They'll be wanting to move out, won't they? She's no longer there. She's moved, but she came to us one morning and said, "Is this house haunted?" And we let her in, sat down, had a cup of tea, and she told me that during the night, and I know some of you guys will have heard this before, but during the night, she said that she's in bed. She's got a little Yorkshire Terrier at the bottom of the bed called Buster, and she said she felt the bed go down. She was laid there. She said, "Who's there?" And she had a conversation with somebody who called himself Alexander St. Clair. Now, we've done his family tree, by the way, guys. I have nobody in that family tree called Alexander St. Clair. But it's strange, isn't it? What do you make of that? What do you... I don't know. And Bob, who was in the top flat, and Bob Brown, who used to come onto Clifftops with us all the time. I'm hoping Bob's going to start coming again. He's just not been great on his feet for the last 12 months or so, but I think things are improving. But he's seen quite a few unusual things in the top floor of his home, his flat. So that's maybe told you a few things. And there's another property which is close, which I'll not say which property it is, but that's had strange activity occurring within the property that I know about, that were occurring, I would have thought, for at least 40 or 50 years. And, that's quite spooky, frightening stuff. So that's all I'll say, because I don't want to label property, to be honest with you. What's this? More werewolfery. Yeah, it's a good word, that, isn't it? Werewolfery. Let's have a look. This will be more to baffle my mind with Zen here. But I love your questions, mate. I keep saying you need to come on and maybe share a bit of your knowledge with us. In the rabbit hole, as usual, this realm is a reactionary entity to its own dream. The ridiculous phenomena can't be explained without something rendering matter into shapes, molecules. You're so right. Do you know, there's so much more to this great unexplained, and we know we don't understand it, guys. And I'm not trying to be some kind of theologian and try and claim to have the answers, but I think there's a lot to be said for, are we creating the phenomena? And before people jump to the conclusion that I'm saying it doesn't exist, would it exist without us? That's what I'm saying. Does that mean it's not real? No, it's real. There's a reality to it. But UFO researchers see UFOs, ghost hunters see ghosts, and cryptid researchers see cryptids. Why? Do you know? And we know that there's a bleed through in between, but for the whole, that's what they tend to see. So what I'm saying is this phenomena, and I don't think Zen's saying that, but is it all encompassing, and is it giving us what we want? So is it we think about these things and we receive these things. You know, people go to these locations expecting to see something, and it's not the power of suggestion and pareidolia and people just imagining things. Sometimes there's multiple people seeing and experiencing, and we go through waves of it, and then it just goes dead for a while. And we know that we were asking what the ingredient is that sort of sparks this strangeness, but I don't know, down the rabbit hole as usual. And it really is, you know, a reactionary entity to its own dream. The ridiculous phenomena can't be explained without something rendering matter into shape. Yeah, it's almost, when we talk about it, it becomes what we're talking about. It's fascinating that I've noted, and there's loads of people know now, but people from all walks of life are seeing something that resembles, and wait for it, well, there's the word, how ridiculous, resembles a werewolf or a dog man. Call it what you want. We're just using a name here. In a specific area of Danes Dyke. Now, Danes Dyke's been renowned for having reports of the White Lady that we've kind of boiled down and rendered down to a sphere of white light. Yet, man, woman, people who've seen it claim they've seen the ghost, and I don't know, it evolves into the shape of a person. But in most instances, we'll have seen a sphere of white light. But if there's a particular area of Danes Dyke and a particular time of the year that people unrelated, unconnected to one another are seeing something that they would call a werewolf. Why? Is it because we're highlighting people's reports, so people are going into these locations with expectancy? Having said that, let me think. The guy on the invalid scooter knew nothing about us. The guy waiting at the bus stop knew nothing about us. The guy coming home from nights from Bessingby Industrial Estate, he was the first one that I got as a report. When he saw it in the dip of the road before you turn, he knew nothing about truth proof and the things that I'm talking about. None of them knew a great deal. Michael had got some knowledge of it, but not a great deal of knowledge of it. So it's fascinating. So are we in turn sort of, I don't know, adding flesh? Are we thought forms? Are we adding flesh to the thoughts? Are we sort of, and the more you think about these things, the more, and once you've brought them into existence, we're only playing with ideas here, guys. That's all we're doing. But imagine if it's a thought form, once you've brought it into existence, is it tied to that area forever? And if more people think and concentrate on it, does it become a stronger entity? And I don't mean strong as in strength. Does its appearance and its boldness become more noticeable? I don't know. What do you think? And I also noted that, because I don't know how we've ended up at Danes Dyke, but we do. These things are being seen where there's been cuts in the dikes, the cut through the road, the main road, the cut through the road on the way out of the dike. I'm not asking people to believe that these things are real. There's obviously a reality to it, but I'm not talking about something that's breaking trees and running through woodland and howling at the moon. But there's a reality to it because people are seeing these things. Excuse me. You know, where close to where Michael saw his incredible, I don't know what you'd call it, transformation, whatever he saw, there's a car park a little bit further up, literally 50 yards up in a field within the dike. And this guy said that himself and his wife had gone and they were having a picnic in the car facing the hedge, a little family saloon car. Obviously, they've got a mirror, driver's side and passenger side. That'll make sense in a moment. And while they're having this picnic facing this hedge, a grey back lifted up above the boot, above the bonnet, and went back down. They both kind of looked at each other. They both seen it. There's a bit of grass to the right of them, and then a steel container where I think a lot of the cutting equipment and maintenance equipment might be kept. I don't know. And then to the left, you've got a field, and just this hawthorn edge in front, and probably about 8 to 10 foot between front at car and edge. So they didn't see it arrive. They didn't see it come down side at car in the mirrors, and they didn't see it leave. They'd both seen this big grey back come up and go down. Didn't see a head, didn't see ears. Don't make sense, does it? You know, does any of this make sense? It doesn't to me. Hold on. Last transmission cup there, guys. Yep. So me and Chris have still got a few of them, and I'm going to get some truth proof cups and some merch, is it? And get some things and try and get that organised. Somebody put in, what about car stickers and things? So we'll have to get some of that sorted. Right, let's just do another question. So it looks like you've just got me. Next week, as I say, we'll try and do a group chat, and then it's not just relying on me to go through all of these little bits of events, because I know that some lads who are up on cliffs and up on these locations with me will be shouting at me, what about this? What about this? I can't remember everything. So let's have a look. I was in Liverpool recently and walked up a side street by the docks, and it was as if I had gone back in time. Suddenly, horse and carriage, people in Victorian clothes. Had to stop as went dizzy. That's fascinating, isn't it? Don't you just love this? I mean, these are better than stories I'm telling. But, you know, seriously, you guys are brilliant, because there's so many elements. You went dizzy. So is that kind of an electrical feeling? Is that some kind of, I don't know. You went dizzy because of what you were looking at? I don't think you did. I think you went dizzy because of the environmental change, maybe. People in Victorian clothes, I don't know the mechanics of that, and I don't know how anyone from science would explain that. You know, a lady contacted me years ago, and I've spoke about this before, and I think it were at Burton Fleming, which is not far from where I am now, on towards the Wold. She were taking her children to school, driving along the road, and suddenly the car's boom, 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 and she's going along a dirt track. There's no road. She's gone off this tarmac road, a normal road, onto a dirt track. Doesn't know where she is. She sees a wooden sign that's got, it might have said Burton Fleming, it might have said another village, but she sees a wooden sign, like an old wooden sign, carries on driving. I'm not going to say for a minute, 5 minutes, just carries on driving for a length of time and comes back out onto a tarmac road. Some glitch in time there. How does that work? And same as what you're talking about, Highfield. It really is fascinating, isn't it? So I have no explanation. And the lady said, obviously she knew which route she was taking. She does it most mornings. And when she was coming back, everything's normal. So it's never happened since, never happened before. Are they time slips? What do you guys call them? I don't know. And then we've also got, and I ain't got the full details of this and I'd have to get it really accurate to tell you full details of it. But we've also got the fishing boat that took the party of fishermen from Bridlington Harbour to what's called the 10 Wrecks. Get to Flamborough Head, do a bit of mackerel fishing, go to another location, do a bit of fishing, then get to the 10 Wrecks. Total time. This is where you've got to be careful, because I'll say a time and then somebody will say, well, when you talked about last time, you said 2.5 hours. Now you're saying 3, because I haven't got that information in front of me. So I'm not a computer. Sound like I'm going to go at somebody. I'm not. But let's assume it should have took 2.5 hours to 3 hours to get to where they were actually going to stop and do the bulk of their fishing over these wrecks. They got there an hour and a half early, which just doesn't make sense. They'd gone into some kind of, there's some time slip, some time jump. He said, and the plotter on the boat showed it as well. That boat's since sank. It was sold to somebody in Whitby, and it's gone down. But that's no to do with what happened there. And because he'd had a sleep in the boat and left his son in charge of taking the guys to the various fishing spots, this fishing party. And he's not a young lad. This is a young man anyway, and he's quite capable of working everything on the boat. But he woke his dad up and he says, "We're here." He says, "We can't be." He says, "And when I looked," he says, "everything were golden. Like we were in a big golden globe." Like he said, it was the colour of a golden Labrador, his exact words. He says, and I just couldn't understand it. The water looked like oil. Literally just looked like everywhere were covered in oil, but it weren't. He says, and the fishing party, he says, "I thought you said it were going to take X amount of hours." We'll say 3 hours. He just said, "I went bait up, get fishing." He says, "But I was frightened." He says, "I thought we were in the eye of a hurricane." He says, everything was still. There were no seagulls. There was nothing. Everything was complete silence. So once again, we've descended into this lower silence, this strange, distorted reality. He says, when we go out to these places to fish, we take lots of bait with us for the hooks. He says, and seagulls just follow you out. There's loads of seagulls about. There was nothing. He says, now I think the radar, 10 miles, 20 miles, right up to 50 miles, there's nothing. There's nothing. He says, we were about 15 miles off Bempton Cliffs. He says, we should have been pinging as we were, but there was nothing. He says, I was really getting really, really worried. He says, and then suddenly the radio, no radio, suddenly crackled. The sea suddenly started to become normal and transmissions come through. The radar starts working. Everything's right. He's back in the world. How does that work? Just like this, Highfield sees horses and carriages and Victorian people. I bet you didn't think to take pictures, and that's no reflection on you, mate. That's no slur on you, but I bet you didn't think to take a picture that you'd be so taken back by what you... Unless, how do you know you weren't on a film set? I'm not only joking. I think you'd know. No, it's fascinating, isn't it? Right, let's have a look. What time are we now, guys? 36. Well, obviously, you've just got me, so thanks for the questions. We've got a few more stories here anyway, so we're all good. I remember that podcast with the guys in the forest. One of them refused to go on tape. Yeah, well, you can't blame them. There were 3 guys that went into Broxer. And one of them just didn't want to do it, and that's his right, isn't it? Let's face it. You can't make people talk if they don't want to. I'm grateful that people are sharing this information. What we want is, if you've been in that area, not necessarily that particular forest, and you've got a story or just some strange experience, just share it with us. And if you don't want your name. If you don't want your name or your true name used, we won't do that. Yeah, that's not a problem. But what you're doing by sharing it is building up a picture, and you're putting more validity and meat onto the bones of what the actual witnesses who've been brave enough to come forward and share. You're making their stories even stronger. So just think about it. Like I said, me and Chris went in, and the guy had been camping in there 5 nights. And he'd been going in from age about 16, 17 to age of 49, never seen, experienced anything. And until he said, I think he said Friday night, I might have said Saturday earlier, but we were in on the Saturday, said Friday night. And then he'd heard this animal for about 10 minutes. Now, let's assume it's somewhat normal. It could have been a wild boar. Do you not think? We know that we're a channel for the strange, the highly unusual, and we love these stories where these incredible beasts, we'll say, and all the UFO reports. But equally so, all of us, you guys included, me just as much as anyone, we've got to remain grounded. Possibly a wild boar could have been. That's about the only thing that would describe it away as being something natural. But in view of what Jimmy and Steve and witness number 3 saw, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Can you imagine being in there and being trapped all night? It's 100% my favourite account, the most the one I think about most if I'm thinking about the cryptid phenomena, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some of them that have got other elements that are just incredible. Michael's is incredible because that is one of the first ones that I've ever spoken about where he's seen some kind of transformation, which is fascinating, guys, isn't it? Okay, let's just ramble down here a little bit. Michael Simons, let's have a look. Simmons, oh my God. Me go cold. You know why. Okay. Oh, yeah, Michaela. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was lovely to spend time with this lady last week. And we all made her welcome on the cliff tops and great company. So, yeah, a strange place. And with your permission, Michaela, not tonight, I'll speak about what you told me when you were, what you saw and experienced when you were a young girl, 12, 13 years old. And this is cryptid related. So obviously, if you didn't want me to, I won't. But I'll speak to you in week if you've got time, and we'll probably cover that if you're happy to do that. That's an incredible story. And that's what I like about these people's accounts, because everybody's unrelated to one another. It's not like these people have all got together and said, let's spin Paul a yarn. You tell him that story this year and I'll tell him one in 5 years. And then you jump back to 1999 and you tell him that one. It doesn't happen like that, does it? Right, Paul, we need to go. We need a GoPro on Bob. Do you know, we've had a GoPro on Bobby. It looked like something from Benny Hill's show, mate. Honestly, he's not big enough. We'd probably try it. I could try it again. I got him a little harness and everything. And I got a second camera, which I take out with me. I don't use it because I use that DJI. But, oh, yeah, it looked like madness. But I suppose people just like to see what Bobby's up to. So maybe we can try it again. Yeah, he's brilliant, isn't he? And his magnificent stunts. Yeah, he does all sorts of things. He can do anything, absolutely anything. And you realise that I'm as daft as dog because I pretend he can. But what do we say? Never take yourself so serious. So let's have a go. Let's just go down a little bit more. Oh, Enrico. We'll just call you 9426, I think. I'm not going to try and do that. When we feel we are being watched, how do we tell if what is watching us is friendly or is malevolent? Well, that's a good point, that. But I think, and we might not always get it right, but I think we've just got to go with this gut feeling. And I reckon that there'll be people in, I see Blue Shift Rob's in. I got your report today, mate. Then thank you. I look forward to hearing a little bit more about that. I think we've just got to go with this gut feeling, you know, and usually if something it feels frightening, then it might be frightening because because it's alien to us, basically. But usually, you get a feeling for these things, and like I said, we don't always get it right. But I bet you the percentage of the time you have got it right. Once again, when the light visited us before Christmas, it felt amazing. We've had other instances where these lights have presented, and it's not felt good. It's felt frightening. So you go with your gut feeling. But like I said, only you would know that, wouldn't you? 9426. With a name like that, I ain't even going to do it. So let's just go down. It's a good name, by the way. Let's have a look. I just can't read it. Highfield. Could it be part of the Super Soldier program? Who could say? Once again, I started some interviews with Rick Allen, some pre-recorded ones, and I don't know, due to life and things that get in way, we've not done another one. We're going to do 2 or 3, I think. So we've done one, a good one. And Rick's the man to talk about this kind of thing more than me. But the Super Soldier program, I don't know. It could be. It's strange that if we're talking about the cryptids seen around military bases, I'm sure that there's cryptids being seen at top of Scotland and reports of them. Is it Machrihanish? That's the place with supposedly the longest runway in the world. I could be wrong, where they're supposed to be in test flights of secret military tech there. I don't know. And there's been reports of cryptids there. So, and I started to get a lot of information from somebody, and then it all kind of dried up. It might start again. If you're listening to this and you want to give me a little bit more of that information, I'd love to hear about it. You see, my head's just swimming. I forget half of it. And there's people sending me amazing reports. When I say I forget half of it, I don't, because I write it down. But you heard that report that I read from 2020. You know, it's so difficult, guys, to try and hold on to all of this and then actually get on with life as well. And that's not a moan as such, even if it sounds like it is. It's the fact that it's not always easy. If I run out of questions, I'll do another. Right, comment. Why CCTV, the paranormal, when humans? Why? Comment. Why does it mean why does CCTV pick up the paranormal when, or why doesn't it pick up when humans aren't present? I don't know. There's cameras everywhere, isn't there? You'd think that the things that people are reporting, you know, there'd be CCTV somewhere perhaps that's got Chris Evers being pulled backwards. Not that it's going to be of any interest to anybody by Chris. So he'd not get access to it. But on a grander scale, should we say, if there's been cryptid sightings or strange anomalous lights moving down a high street, you'd think that CCTV would have it. Yet with all the cameras, like I said before, many times, guys, we are a skeptic's dream scenario. We really are, because as the subtitle of that orange book, The Truth That Leaves No Proof, because it's a truth. And where is your truth, people? Where do you keep it? It's absolutely drilled into your mind. It's tattooed into your mind. You can't erase it. But at the same time, it's not left anything that you, other than verbal, that you can actually share with anyone. And that's the frustration of being involved in this subject. And you're not involved in it as in, it's not a vocation. It's not something that you do as a hobby for most people who've had an experience. It's something that you're searching for answers for. But it's so frustrating at times. We might do another story in a minute. Let's have a look. Brother Littlefoot. Yeah, thanks. Good to see you here, mate. Dog behaviours, Nick. I'm just looking at a few names here. 40. And I thought I saw Rick in here then. I've missed your question, Rick. I've not done it on purpose. Let's have a look. 40 and 23. Love that baboon type creature count. Didn't the paras on the cliff tops describe what they saw as a baboon? And someone else in your area saw something similar jump over a wall and land on all fours. Yeah, they did. The guys in, I think it was February 7th, 2019. And those two military guys, and they knew when they were walking down the cliff tops in the night with their two dogs. They said that the one that would talk said, I knew then that we should have gone. We shouldn't have carried on walking. Everything felt off. His exact words were, the air felt electric. So once again, you've got this charged atmosphere. They lit the eyes up with the torch. The eyes didn't look away. The eyes just sort of looked at them and then just sort of nonchalantly just turned, got further down, lit the eyes up. And then when they went through those two posts, which were actually a style years ago, so people call them gate posts, but they're not. To the right of them in the field, it were there. And he said he thought it were a hyena at first. You said by baboon, didn't you? Yeah, but he said he thought it were a hyena. He said it were hunkered down and bristling. So many weird aspects to that case. And we could have done some of these in great detail. I realised that. So we're just skimming over them. But when it stood up looking at these two men, it had got its finger under its chest. Let me get rid of this question, Elise, so you can see what I'm... So it were a bit lower, but you can't see that. And he said its finger were doing that, as though there was something else. Well, it was that one, to looking to the right of them. And that sort of threw them. They're looking at this as if it's not all bizarre enough. And then there's this finger doing that. It's really strange. And obviously they had to go back along those cliff tops, probably 3/4 of a mile to get to their vehicle. Can you imagine how that must have felt? It never pursued them, just stood watching them. It's fascinating, guys, fascinating. And if you don't believe it, I'm not trying to push it down your throats. You don't have to believe it. That's fine. You probably believe in God. Does he exist? I don't know. He lives on a cloud, doesn't he? And the supreme things that happen, if we want to read the Bible, it's are they supernatural? Is that paranormal? You tell me. Some of the things that are said, they're no more fabulous than some of the things I'm talking about now. But there we go. Let's have a look. Jill, exactly. That's the proof. Those girls knew he was real, and I believe they willed it into solidity. Yeah, I just think if we can't, it's what do people say, Zen? You know, you hear of people summoning UFOs. Are they actually summoning UFOs, or are they willing them into existence? Then let's just look at it that way, you know. And can people summon UFOs? Some people claim to, and willed it into existence or into solidity. It's a great word, isn't it? Let's have a look. Disabled Welshman. Will the last transmission ever be coming back, Paul? I would hope so. I mean, Chris might be watching this. I know he watches bits of it, and I spoke to him today. We never talked about last transmission, but I would hope so at some point. But it's just full on with other things at the moment, and I am so something had to give. So it may do at some point. Just like we keep talking about Wolflands 2. I need to ring Les this week. We need to get that kick-started and start putting things in order because, you know, we've done a lot of filming on it and we will do that. Let's have a look, guys. Come on. Lee Roscoe. That's not in capitals. Let's have a look. Well... You know then, the boy's own boat. So Gren Steele knows which boat it was as well. Yeah, so and I have wrote about it. So I'm probably named the boat in the book. So that were the boat, yeah. That were the boat that the guys were in when they had that time jump where they actually got to the fishing ground. I think it were an hour and a half early. And you just can't do that. I remember talking to bloke who owned boat, you know, and he said to me, he says, to have done that, the boat would have had to have stood on end and gone like a speedboat across the sea. And this were just a little fishing boat. You know, we're limited. They knew what time they were going to get there. And the plotter showed these big jumps as though it had just jumped and been in one spot. You can see it. And then it's in another spot. Really fascinating story. And he's told me the story. He's allowed me to record him in parts of the story. And I said, do you fancy talking about it? No. So that's as far as you're only ever going to get, I think, that off me. See, Rick Allen's put something there, but not in capitals. But as I say, I'm looking forward to getting these interviews done with Rick. We're going to have to get on with him, but I know he's been busy, and it's worked in my favour because I have as well. Bold Street in Liverpool is famous location for time slips. I also have my own time slip story involving a disappearing motorway service station. Wow. Isn't this brilliant, guys? Wouldn't it be great? I'm assuming, Hive, that your story might take 10 minutes to tell. I'd love it if we could sort of gather together 6 or 7 people and all of them share a story. And it might be a bit chaotic in here if I'm trying to field everybody, but it would be brilliant, I think. Because it's okay me sharing these stories and relaying this information to you guys. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything better than the person who's experienced it telling their story. Even if they're not natural storytellers, it's coming from the horse's mouth. When I'm writing the books, you know, or anything else, can you do us a little sketch? I say, well, I don't draw. Don't matter. It takes us to the location and it's been done by the person who's seen and experienced from their perspective. I don't care if the stickmen. It's still good. Let's just go a little bit further, guys. What we got here? Because I've only got a few minutes. I'll go down, and if there's no questions, we'll just do this story. What's this? Mark. Video footage on YouTube of a portal opening and a creature manifesting was caught on a trail cam. Wow. I've not seen that, Mark, and fascinating if it is. And I'm not used to say, you know, it's like somebody said earlier, some of the footage that we've managed to obtain on those cliff tops and other locations. It sounds like a real boast, but it is as good as anything you're going to see anywhere in the world. It's only the fact that it's not been out there, it's not been exposed. I mean, I sent Professor Holland, Simon Holland, loads of short segments of footage, and he'd only used one. But he says in the interview, if you want to go watch it, I mean, let's give his channel a bit of a plug. Not that it needs it; it's a big channel. But he says in the interview that what I'd sent and what the team had filmed with me is the best evidence he's ever seen. He's called them plasma craft. I'd debate that one with him because we don't know whether they're plasma craft, but if that's what he wants to call them, that's good enough for me. But to say that, we know you've got to big things up if you want somebody to watch a film, but he's saying the best evidence he's ever seen. He watches a lot of stuff. He watches a lot of films, and he watches sees a lot of people's footage, and that's what he's saying about the stuff that we presented to him. So I found that quite interesting. Let's have a look. We're nearly there now, guys, and let's have a look. UF9. None of us asked to be involved with this subject, yet many of us were picked. But for why or for what? There is nothing special about myself that I know of. It's all part of a mystery. Yeah, you make a great point. And I don't think any of us are particularly special. But we must have something. There's some ingredient that these unknown others or whatever it is interested in. There's something there. You might not be special in the grand scheme of things, just like I'm not. But to whatever it is that's interacting with you, you are. It's on a much more minor scale. It's like if we went to, I don't pick a car or buy a puppy, we'd look and we'd pick the one they're all the same. Everything's just about looking the same, but we'd pick the one that appeals to us. But I don't know. There must have been something. There's some ingredient, like we kept talking about these ingredients of the unexplained. There's some ingredient that makes them or you interesting to them. In childhood, with night people, I think it was fear. And I don't know. Maybe my fear levels, which were off the scale, were a little bit more entertaining and of value for whatever it was. I mean, I could be completely off the mark, but I'm just convinced. I can't think why anything would subject a child to such fear. And that's what they did. But why me? Why not other children? It'd be brilliant if some of these other people from around that area came forward and said, this is what happening to me. My only consolation when writing Night People, afterwards, should I say, is the guy that I grew up with throughout school, Adrian. I sort of reconnected with him about 4 or 5 years ago, and there'd been a gap of about 30 years. He says, you told us all about that these events when we were school kids. Does it make it real? Of course it doesn't. It's just me telling it, but it shows that I've not just thought about it. It'd be good to get Adrian on one day and let him relay some of them things. So if you're listening, there you go. What's this? Over 400 in chat. Let's get some more likes. Great channel. Yeah, thanks, Davos. We said it before. If you've not subscribed, give us a little press on that subscribe button. It's free. And I like as well. It's absolutely all you're doing is supporting it. And you've just heard me wearing my voice out for the last 2 hours. So some of you might be glad to see it back of me. But like I said before, if you're here and you don't like me, then you really are a fan because you're watching me. But you guys, for the most part, I just love spending time with you. Anyone new to Truth Proof, check out the many previous live streams on Paul's YouTube channel. So many great guests and strange clips of footage you will enjoy. You're spot on, and thanks, Fortune, and absolutely right about so many great guests. We've had some amazing guests on. The scientists from Skinwalker, Whitley Strieber, Robbie Williams, and absolutely some brilliant minds. And not only that, the actual everyday people like you and me who've just got stories of an incredible nature to share. Just brilliant guests. The reason I've not been getting guests on recently is it's just time. I've just sort of so swamped with things to do. And the lady who we're going to come on tonight, lovely lady. Hopefully at some point in future she's still welcome to come on and share these experiences, but it's time. Well, questions which I've got all ready but all that takes time, but they'll be waiting if she comes on again, so it's not a problem. But everything takes time. So if you imagine if you get somebody on, I don't know, like Simon Holland, who said he'll come on. Whitley Strieber said he'll come on again. What did I talk to today? Tim Bledsoe, Chris Bledsoe. But for me, I don't just get a guest on and let them talk. I do a bit of research and want to hit them with questions that are going to stimulate their mind. What does that take? time. You know, you can't just do that. So you've got to invest a good few hours looking at somebody and forming them questions. But anyway, let me just get through this, and then I'll have another cup of tea, shall we? But it's been great, guys, because, you know, over 400 in chat all night. I really appreciate the support. And talking about time, the travel time was 2 hours. Who are you? The travel time was 2 hours in the boy zone. The captain was woken up 40 minutes later. Great podcast. I'm assuming you've got Truth Proof 4 in front of you. So unless you want people, unless you were actually in boat, then that's fascinating. But thank you for that. So yeah, it's a great story, isn't it? And I wish I could get him on to share that account, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, guys. Let's just have a look, see if there's right. Who wins, Jersey Devil or Loch Ness Monster? Who could say? I suppose it depends on what you favour. Somebody's going to say Loch Ness Monster, somebody's going to say Jersey Devil. It depends what you favour, doesn't it? You know, I mean, for me, one of the most enduring cryptid type stories is the Grey Man of Ben McDewey. Do you know that absolutely fascinates me, and I'm hoping I'm going to get to it this year. But when I spoke to Chris Turner, because that's where we were going to go, I don't think his time's going to allow. But I'd like to get that together and do that. I'd like to go there, spend 3 or 4 days there overnight, and just soak in the atmosphere, not necessarily experience the story and the essence of what the Grey Man is, but just soak in the atmosphere and film it and bring back some interesting footage and stories for you guys. That's what it's all about for me. So I think we've just about wrapped it up, guys, and thanks for putting up with me for the last 2 hours. And without your questions, we're not going to do that story now. We'll save it for another week. Let's just have a quick look, because I've popcorn ready for round 2, Linda says. Oh, okay, Linda. Let's just have a look. It was a podcast with Howard Hughes a few years back. I listened to it yesterday. See. So that's where it's from. Yeah, so I'd obviously, a few years ago, I'd have just got the story of the boat that had this time, jump in time. So I'd have had all that information at hand. So that's brilliant. That I'd have been puzzled over that all night, to be honest with you. But no worries. Listen, guys, I'm going to leave you to it. All being well, next Sunday it'll be myself, Linny, Jack, anyone else from team that want to contribute. It'd be great if we could get 3 or 4 of them, and we'll just kick around some of the things. Get your questions ready, and we'll probably get a bit of footage up to share as well. Well, we won't probably. I will do. And some still images, and we can go through things. And let's just talk about, as somebody said tonight, you've probably got some of the best, is it evidence? We've got some of the best footage and best examples of unexplained phenomena anywhere, I think. So let's go through some of this, not just me talking about it next Sunday. So on that note, guys, I'm going to say good night. Have a great night. See you next week. Bye-bye. Is this an adventure or what? We don't need... unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this for you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in, he said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.